Just now, the country's biggest pharmaceutical manufacturer, Aspen Pharmacare, has resumed dividend payments. This after cutting its debt to well below the levels required by lenders. Full-year results shows profits rising 10% compared to the year before. Aspen secured a contract with Johnson & Johnson in November last year to formulate, full and finish the single-shot COVID-19 jabs. Well, let's speak to Aspen CEO Saad. Well, Stephen, thanks indeed for talking to us. So the share price up today, Stephen, on an otherwise red day locally. So investors appear to be happy with what they saw. I mean, you provided a reliable supply of medicines despite the challenges of COVID-19.
Yes, it was. We were very pleased with the results. It was a very positive year. It was a year that probably framed 3 or 4 years. It was quite a nice sort of way to frame that period. It was a year where, reshaped portfolio. Every area of the business showed good growth in revenues, and also, we were able to bring our debt down from 35 billion to 16, which was pretty big amount of debt reduction, without really skipping a beat on the EBIT or the profit line. So, yeah, we achieved much and at that level, but I think what we're most proud of is our ability to, we had the vision to build a sterile facility, and that sterile facility has started to produce its first income out of our South African facilities, and that, it happens to be a COVID vaccine too, so that was very positive.
Yeah, thumbs up there. We just seen that Discovery story, Discovery today telling us that it's now mandatory for its employees to have the jab, at least by January next year. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, are you planning to do something similar with your staff at Aspen?
I think they're right. So I'm talking to you at a personal level. I think Discovery are right. I think that sometimes in life it's interesting to be a follower. Sometimes you want to lead. But what's clear, because we are behind here, is that those countries that have vaccinated, although they haven't stopped transmissions, they've certainly stopped deaths and they've gone to a normal life. They've reduced deaths. So I think that if logic prevails, we really should all be vaccinated, because not being vaccinated is two things. One, you put yourself at risk, and two, you're creating risk for others. I don't think it's fair. And so my view is that to the extent, I'm not sure of the legal implications, that it can be or should be mandatory, I completely subscribe to it. At the very least, if you're not going to be vaccinated, then you need to be inconvenienced. You need to go and get treatments every few days or once a week to show that you're negative. And then you can't go to certain areas without masks on, etc. Because I think it's very unfair, because the irony is that if we could all stop, if we all were fine, then this thing wouldn't spread anymore. But it continues to spread, and what are we waiting for that one variant to break through the vaccines? I'm comfortable with where Discovery is on this.
Stephen,
totally personal. I'm not saying I'll be able to introduce it in Aspen, but at a totally personal level.
Yeah, apologies for butting in there. But which brings me to the ambition of Aspen's own branded COVID-19 vaccine. I mean, a lot depends on those talks with Johnson & Johnson. What can you tell me about where we are with those talks so far?
So what's preempted a lot of this is our capacity is increasing. So we are going to be, by the next 4 to 5 months, up to maybe 450 million doses. And we really want to make sure that we service Africa. And so where we are with Johnson & Johnson is we've started the discussions around the license. They've really been great. They've been the company that supported us in our first endeavors. They're the reason we're around the table, and I'm very happy with our teams, who in turn were able to provide them with the most supply and the most reliable supply. And so there's a real goodwill and a lot of trust between the companies. They recognize the opportunities and the need within Africa. And so a licensing arrangement has a few components, and these are some of the complexities. There's a commercial component. Ironically, in most transactions, commercial components normally the difficult. This is the least. There's things like pharmacovigilance. If somebody gets sick on an Aspen branded vaccine, what implications does that have for a J&J vaccine? How do we share information? A lot of technical stuff. And then there's things like liability. If somebody dies on the vaccine, You know, who's liable? How? And so there's quite a few technical things to talk about, but nothing we can't work through. You know, there's a registration process for this. At the moment, J&J have an emergency approved vaccine. So how does one share that type of intellectual property? So quite a few key things to talk to, but really over the last few days, we got really close on this, and there's real commitment from both sides. And I'm really hopeful that we can, because could you imagine, you know, having 450 million doses just dedicated to Africa, you know, every day, every year? It would be fantastic.
I'd like to get your take on the supply of vaccines, Stephen, just generally. I mean, are the worries over or behind us now, you think?
I think from a South African perspective, yes, but are the worries behind us? No. You know, and I'm talking now specifically about the vaccines we're involved in, J&J. The setback from Emergent, the US supply, the supplied drug substance, was profound. You know, to throw away over 30 million vaccines was heartbreaking. Okay. And so you never in stock. And as I said before, this is not you're making a biological product and you've got no opening stock. How do you manage, you know, supply and pulls on supply? You have a bit of stock till, you know, we literally go hand to mouth, batch to batch. And not every batch passes on the first test or the second test, and some work needs to be done. So it's a very tricky process, this. But I do think, seeing all the stock that's coming off our lines, that if we're okay for supply now, but I think the future supply is even more assured, because there's a lot of stock just sitting there waiting to be released, waiting to have all the tests done. And so there's quite a big build-up, and I think that's good news for us. I'm less concerned about supply, and I really would like to see massive offtakes of the vaccine into the markets and getting the vaccine to the.
And then before I let you go, Stephen, how significant were these vaccine sales to the set of your results yesterday evening when you released it? I mean, you're a business; you have to make money on the jabs.
Sure.
What would be an acceptable margin on these?
So just to give you a sense, sorry, our vaccine sales were just over 400 million rand. That's on a business that does 40 billion. So it's an absolute drop in the ocean at the moment. But that was only 3 or 4 months sales with interrupted supply. I'm really hopeful, Devin, that going forward, these become a very big part of Aspen sales, and not just COVID vaccines. I'd like to be involved in the children vaccines into Africa and more broadly. And also a license would have a massive impact in what share of future business it would have. So very limited to no impact on these results, but certainly it will have a bigger impact next year, and hopefully a very material impact in that year, and transformational for us going forward. So a very bold strategy we had, if I may say, around sterols, and it looks like it's delivering for us.
All right. Stephen Saad, CEO of Aspen Pharmacare, thanks very much indeed for talking to us on that good set of results coming out today.